If you want to feel more connected to humanity and a little less alone, listen to Beautiful Anonymous. Each week, I take a phone call from one random anonymous human being. There's over 400 episodes in our back catalog. You get to feel connected to all these different people all over the world. Recent episodes include one where a lady survived a murder attempt by her own son. But then the week before that, we just talked about Star Trek. It can be anything. It's unpredictable. It's raw. It's real. Get Beautiful Anonymous wherever you listen to podcasts.
Now you're just in my right ear.
Are you fucking serious?
Home of Indiana University, rock quarries, cornfields, enchanted woods, and injury lawyer Ken Nunn, Bloomington is a town that has a term for its ability to lure one-time residents back, the bloomerang. There's something weirdly magical going on here, and college town nobodies Josh Bennett and Chris Coopersmith are going to get to the bottom of this place by listening to stories and riding every possible tangent along the way.
So how's COVID treating you?
It's not too bad. I actually have tested positive another time,
Oh, really?
a couple summers ago, but then I went and got a PCR and it tested negative. So this is the first time I'm like, oh, I really actually have COVID,
Yeah.
And, it's fine. It's like a regular flu-ish thing. Have you had it?
The only time, I got it that I'm aware of is in Spain.
In Spain, right. But you didn't have any symptoms, right?
Very, very mild.
Yeah.
Like there was one day that I woke up and I was like a little fevery and sore throat, and I took a test that day and it was negative.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the next day I was fine. And then I was surprised when I was positive like a week later.
Right.
Well,
But it did give you a chance to brag about the fact that you're in Spain all the time.
yeah, it gave me like the most. It felt like I finally had an interesting story to tell about myself.
Right.
Everything else was like, did I archive some stuff today and mow the yard?
Right. Anytime you can preface anything with like, well, when I was in Spain.
Exactly.
It's all of a sudden so much more interesting.
Right. So I did do a little bit of research on Bobby Knight.
You did? What did you find out?
You probably know some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like in 1979, he was convicted of slapping a police officer at the Pan American Games. And the reason that I bringing this up is that I've seen a video of his response to the arrest. Like he was convicted and they wanted to bring him back to stand trial, and he just left. And his response to IU, and he was very similar to Trump as like just like he owes me an apology.
Yeah,
but the police officer that he slapped in the face owes me an apology.
God.
And then in 1981, during a Final Four, he was in a shoving match with an LSU fan, and he threw him in a garbage can.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And I'm just thinking, like, when I was reading about this, like, he's representing Indiana University, and they're like, yeah, well, we're going to let this one go.
Yeah.
And then in 87, he bangs his fist on a scorer's table, and he's assessed a technical foul. The university is fined $10,000, and Knight receives a reprimand. He refuses to let his team finish the exhibition game against the Soviet Union. So he takes his team and just
not
refuses.
doing it.
Yeah. And then in 93, he was suspended for one game after a sideline tirade in a victory over Notre Dame, in which he screams at his son. Pat kicks his son.
He kicks his son. He kicked his son.
Kicks Pat and son, and the fans start yelling at him, and the Knight cusses.
They're mad at him for.
They see him
son.
kick his son, and then the fans start yelling at him, and he cusses them out.
Yeah.
He headbutts in 1994. He headbutts Wilkerson while screaming at him. Another player.
So much of the For some reason, just so many of the descriptions, the verbs of what he does
Yeah.
are hilarious. Like headbutting, and there's something you said earlier. That was really funny. Go on.
Okay. In 1999, he's investigated for battery after allegedly choking somebody at a restaurant.
Dude, I was just getting ready to ask you about that because I was literally just Googling Bobby Knight restaurant because I know that guy.
Did he choked?
Yeah, totally. He's told me the story before. And because I can't remember, unless he told police, comment, he took offense to comments he said he overheard Knight making and confronted Knight as he preparing to leave. During the incident, the man said he was physically assaulted. Yeah, dude is interesting. So yeah,
Wow.
he confronted Knight. What else did you learn about Bobby?
So the other confrontations he had, he threw a vase at a secretary. He dislocated his son's shoulder and broke his nose.
Seriously? I didn't know that.
He attacked and knocked out an Indiana sports information director in the 70s. At what point do you think that, I think it was Miles Brandt was the president of IU at the time that finally fired him.
Yeah.
But how many conversations do you think that he had? Like, he's like, okay, Bobby Knight's in my office. He slapped a police officer and he got arrested in front of the team. I'm going to have to talk to him.
Yeah.
But do you ever think that like, he was just like, Bobby, stop throwing people in the trash.
You can't throw vases at people's head.
Dude, I'm really everything that you're doing is fine, but stop headbutting your players. I mean, I wonder, like, yeah, I want to see like an interaction between Bobby Knight and Mellencamp.
Oh my God.
Because I bet they hate each other. Because they seem very similar. I mean, they both kick their son's ass.
Why is this funny?
I don't know why. That's the funniest part. It's really awful.
Terrible. Terrible.
Yeah.
Well, I remember, because this was my first really big memories in Bloomington, was that there was basically a violent insurrection when he was fired.
Yeah.
And people wanted Miles Brand's head on a stick. Like, they wanted him dead.
I think the kid that turned him in, like, had to leave IU.
Turned Bobby Knight in.
Yeah.
Because that was the last straw, is he messed with some IU kid, right?
Yeah, I think I think another thing that he did was like, I might be mixing stories here, but I think a kid was like, said something to him like, "What's up, Knight?"
He called him Knight. That's exactly what happened.
And then I heard that, like, at some point, this could be a different story again, but Bobby Knight took the kid's bike and threw it in the bushes.
Yeah, that kid, I think that kid had to leave IU.
Yeah.
I have one Bobby Knight story.
Okay.
I used to work at McCree's Deli, which was over on the east side on that strip mall with
I remember.
Was it Hobby Lobby?
Yep.
Yeah, it was Show Place and all that. And I would get up and take the city bus over to the east side and get over there, and I was a busboy. I was even employee of the month once, to be honest.
You were the bus boy of the month?
I was the bus boy of the month.
Did you get a special parking spot?
I didn't have a car.
Did you get a picture? Did you get your picture?
I don't even think I got my picture.
Damn,
I don't even know
what they
gave. I don't even know what they gave me.
A discount?
In my memory, and this is the problem, but in my memory, I got a big old, because McCree's used to have these insane jugs of beer, like
growlers,
but you would drink them. It was like with a handle, you know.
Uh-huh.
It was like, I mean, who knows how much was in there? And that's what I think I got. So Bobby Knight would bring his entire coaching staff in there once a week. And they had these long ass booths, like that would fit. They would fit a dozen people, and he'd go in there, bring his whole coaching staff in there, and they would have lunch and talk shop. And he would open his mail there every week. He would bring a big stack of mail and open his mail while I was having this meeting. And then he would just leave.
Like his mail from his house?
I don't know if it was his work mail or his whatever mail, but he would just have this big pile of mail, open all his mail, and then he would just leave it all on the table, along with a real shitty tip. If
really,
yeah, terrible tipper, not surprising. And so I'd bust the tables, and so I'd look at his mail, because it was on the fucking table,
right?
And
he left it for the busboy.
He left it for the busboy.
Yeah.
So the busboy looked through his mail, and
as an employee of the month fucking does.
Exactly. It's my job to be thorough. And I find this letter from this person who had sent a Polaroid picture of her mother, who was an old elderly woman, clutching a signed photograph of Bobby Knight, like clutching it. And it's a Polaroid. And the letter explains that in the San Francisco earthquakes in 1989, that her mother had to evacuate her house really quickly, and she grabbed her one prized possession before she left.
Damn.
Which was the signed photograph of Bobby Knight, and she just wanted Bobby to know that. So Bobby knew it while he was eating his, French dip, and then he fucking left it on the table for me.
Right next to his shitty tip.
Right next to his shitty tip.
God damn.
Yeah. You want to talk about Rob Jordan?
Let's talk about Rob Jordan.
Rob Jordan is he's just this presence at Bloomington North where I work, and in the interview we even talk about how he's technically a security guard, but he's just so much more in our building.
Right. Yeah.
One of the reasons I got onto wanting to interview him was that I was standing. I don't remember. We were standing in the gymnasium a couple of years ago, and just shooting the shit. He started telling me stories about when he worked in prisons, and he was very young. I think he was, I don't even know if he was in his 20s yet. I mean, he's very young. When he worked in the prisons, he was just prison guard. Yeah. And he just started telling me about this crazy, uprisings and, all this shit and white supremacists and, all these things. But, he told me about one time and where there was a prison uprising, and I think some white dude put him in the office and shut the door and was basically protecting him from harm from the other prisoners. In the interview that folks are getting ready to hear, he actually told us a bunch about that stuff, and we ended up cutting it out. But it just kind of set the stage because one of the things he was telling us was that how he just treats everybody the same. He didn't give preferential treatment to the black dudes in the prison, and then he didn't look down on the white guy. He just kind of treated everybody like humans, and not only he didn't even treat them like prisoners, he treated them like humans, and he got a lot of street cred and respect for that. Does that sound?
It does
right?
sound, and I even think that he said that the person that was protecting him was a white supremacist.
Yep, I think so too.
And it was just the way that he treated everybody. He said something like that. The reason that the guy was nice to him is because he always treated him like a human being.
Yep.
And not just, he was equal to everybody as far as benefits or whatever responsibilities within. He didn't just choose his favorites whenever there was an opportunity for something that they wanted to do.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Should we bring him on?
Let's do it.
All right. Here's Rob Jordan. Welcome to Bloomington Stories, Rob. Thanks so much for being here. This is Rob Jordan, Josh Bennett, Rob Jordan, meet.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Yeah, we've been trying to make this happen for 6 months, so I'm really excited.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to make it happen.
Yeah, we have been trying to do it for a while. And next thing you know, I'm overseas, and now we're back in school, and I'm glad we're able to do this today.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your job title? So we work together at the high school.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your job title there?
Security.
Security. Okay. Security. So I mean, to me, from my perspective and from the way a lot of people talk in the building, more of the kids, I think, better than, probably any teacher, even more of them better. Mm-hmm. You know so many kids, and they open up they trust you. It's just obvious, that you get a lot of respect.
Well, with students, the same way, man. Having consistency, continuity, like tomorrow, Monday, I usually get a dozen donuts and I bring them in. And then if kids are walking by, man, they come on in there and have a donut or two with me.
Mm-hmm.
About breakfast sandwiches, and things of that nature. I ain't eat no 5 sandwiches. I might eat one, and then I share the other.
Yeah.
And particularly with young kids and the ones that I don't know yet. Like with regulars, I mean, like you get I've known since he was a little boy.
Yeah.
Come from a good family, everything's good with him. But this little over here, just met him. He shook up. He don't know anybody. Well, if I go and start talking to him, and I learn his name, and I learn his routine, then that kind of establishes him too.
Yeah.
That he feels like, hey, I'm somebody. He knows my name too.
I'm
then other kids will hear it, and then they can befriend him. I've done that before for years. You know, and you do that, man, and kids love the sound of their own name. I like going in learning new name, you know, because that sounds a lot better than hey you. There's so many of us, you don't keep up with our name. I know when where I came in once before, and I'm sitting there just, every kid coming by, calling them by their name as they go by their name. He's just kind of watching, but I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
And, you got to figure, if every day I learn at least 10 freshmen names, so by the end of the semester,
you got them down.
You know a whole lot of them. And then if they come back sophomore year, you remember them.
Yeah.
And then with a junior and senior, and then it's the same thing, same pattern. And that's how you get to know most of everybody when they come in. Where they sit, what they'll eat. I mean, I've had what's that administrator come in. Hey, have you seen so-and-so? Yep, he just went out there. You know such and such eats? Yep, usually sits in the back row back there. Country boys sit up here. All the brothers sit up front. All the jocks sit right here.
Dang.
All my band kids, they sit back there and just knowing where they are.
See, I don't even, and I have no, that's all news to me, you know what I mean? Like, I teach there, but, like, I don't know any of that he was just talking about.
I can't pour this on there, can I?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. We got to mention the bourbon anyway. That's a good sound effect to have on there.
Yeah, totally. It's Woodford Reserve double oaked.
Yeah.
So what I think I've noticed is when you worked in the prison, you didn't particularly treat the prisoners just as other prisoners. You treated them as individuals, and it sounds like you carried that on to, you're not just treating the students as students. You want to make them, they're treating them as individuals as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
that's awesome.
yeah, because I was young and I made mistakes before. I have relatives that have been locked up, and I can remember one of my mom's boyfriends telling me years ago. And he told me, DJ, it pays to know people in all walks of life.
It really, man, that's so
and treat
true.
them all right.
So true.
You know?
Yeah.
So just because you have Dr. So-and-so and that's your parent, I'm not going to treat you any different than I would treat a kid that maybe he's in the system, don't know the parent.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. In fact, I'm more or less going to probably be able to service and help to this person because they need it more.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot from my own perspective as a teacher, because kids who have it pretty good are good at asking for help, and they're good at like getting your attention, you know,
and being resourceful.
and the other, and a lot of times, the other ones aren't so much, and so they can kind of disappear out of my sight if I'm not careful, because I'm too busy, answering to the kids who are resourceful,
Yeah.
So like one of my big goals this year is kind of, I even told my classes this, is like, I'm going to find you, not in that way, but I was like, I'm going to see you, a lot of you in here are fine, and I'm not going to ignore you. I want to make sure the kids who need to hear it are hearing me say, I'm going to see you, I'm going to find you, and I'm trying to be there for you, and academically or whatever, Do you know why? Do you have any idea why? Like, this is maybe a silly question you don't have to answer, but kind of why you're like this, because it's unique. Your title is security guard, but it's like to see you walking around the halls, nobody would know that was your title. Because you're mainly like talking to kids. So do you know why you think you're like that?
Oh yeah. I'm hearing impaired, and severe enough to where I've always had to rely a lot on lip reading.
Okay.
And reading body language.
Oh my God.
And we all know that verbally, 35% of how we communicate is verbal. You know, the other 65% or so is nonverbal. So nonverbal cues, you can walk in a room, man, you can pick up on who the most powerful person in the room is. You can pick up on the person that's going to need you most and everything. That's why I always make sure that I like to be in the commons area and see kids when they get off the bus and when they come in the building. And you can kind of look for yourself and just reading their body language. Who's hungry, who's cold, who's in a bad mood, and those kind of things. So it helps, especially if you know the kid, because then you can go and advocate for them, even when they don't even know you're doing it.
Right.
By talking to the teachers and letting them know, you know, these are going to be some problems you might see.
Right.
Or this is happening at home, you know, and point them in. We got a new social worker now, so I haven't met her.
Yeah.
But I always provided that for Miss Autry.
Yeah.
You know, hey, if there's information I can give you to help you, yeah, I go and find that. Just trying to be a person you wish you had when you were younger.
Okay.
My parents were divorced.
Yeah.
I had to live in different places, man. Going to kindergarten was very traumatic for me. I mean, there was a lot of things that were going on that helped shape the person that you see now.
Yeah.
You know, I always say God's still not finished with me yet. You know, I still don't know nothing. I don't know anything. I'm just trying to figure it out as I go around. But I have learned that if you treat people the way you want to be treated, more or less, that's going to create good karma for you. And kids don't forget that.
They really don't.
Yep.
Yeah. Why did you say kindergarten was traumatic?
Oh, shoot, man. Just came back from Germany, going to school at South Christian. Keep in mind, it was 1975.
Right.
Civil Rights Bill was passed in 65.
Right.
You still had a lot of very prejudiced folks that didn't feel like black folks belonged in school with them. And my teacher called me a nigger every day.
Your teacher did.
Oh, yeah. And she encouraged the other kids to do it. And they pulled the hearing aids out of my ears and throw them on the ground. And that kind of thing. And then the solace I had was going home. And at that time, my dad was TDY, so he wasn't there. But my grandmother, Ann Lou, was always comforting to me to tell me everything's okay and you're going to be all right. And then my mom was telling me it's important to remember everybody's not like that. And I was bitter for a long time, didn't want to go to school, hated that stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, they pick on me because my lisp and because I couldn't pronounce things. Because, you know, when you're hearing impaired, you say what you hear. You know, so I spent many, many hours in the bathroom, reading books out loud and catching the acoustics off walls to see how I sounded.
When you were growing up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then always being mindful of how you approach people. All that served me well as I work with old folks in nursing homes.
Yeah.
To learn how to passively, you're observant, but you don't stare. Because that can intimidate people.
Right.
Working in prison, you don't stare. They can get you killed. And working in high school, don't stare.
Man, that's
because it scares people.
It
so
does.
You learn how to talk, move your eyes, watch everything. Some people, especially in Europe, they love to get right up on you and talk. Conversation very close.
Okay.
I don't like it because I have to read your body language. So I prefer a little distance. So I can see what you're doing with your hand. So I can see how your feet, if your leg is jumping all the time, do you blink?
You're tracking all that.
You have to. I say that's always been the essence of my survival.
It's
So
amazing.
then when you're watching kids like that, you can usually call their bluff too. You know, we had one kid I had gotten into it with, but I was looking into his eyes and I said, oh man, he ain't doing no but talking. I let him finish and I smiled and said, now let's go over here so I can talk. Oh, I'm fine right here. Nah, because what I have to say to you is for you.
Okay.
Kids don't need to hear that.
Okay.
And so he came on with me, and then we both sat there and talked. Now, of course, he got suspended for 5 days.
Yeah.
You know, but that goes along with it. After that, he and I were both golden. He was golden. But he ended up quitting school. But, you know, whenever I see him in town, he's always very cordial, very friendly.
So awesome, man.
His brothers stayed behind. They didn't do very much in school, so when I come and learn that the whole family moved back to Chicago, while everybody else is kind of rejoicing and feel like, you know, you got a kid that's there's a handful, and you got him out of here, and the brother, he didn't graduate, he's not going to contribute, and that's what everybody's looking at. I'm looking at that differently, because I'm looking at saying, if COVID hadn't hit when it did, those kids probably would have went to middle school, showed up on a consistent basis. They'd have been better apt and prepared coming into high school.
Yep.
And they didn't have any of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, y'all cheering on because he ain't here no more. I'm worried about him and his well-being because now he's going to Chicago and he's not equipped for the survival that he's going to have. You know, he's ill-equipped. And then you figure with the violence that escalates in Chicago, what are the chances that he, his mom, all three brothers remain unscathed?
Right.
Slim and none. Then you have kids that coming up from Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
And then they want to try to emulate the way they think that kids from Chicago are supposed to be.
Yeah.
In their school.
Yeah.
We're small, we're slow, we don't know anything, this, that, and the other. You know, and I always tell them, it ain't where you're from, it's where you're at. I feel the reason why your folks left Chicago to bring you here, to give you an opportunity. And take the advantage of that. Say, yeah, we ain't got no bars on the window. We ain't got no cops walking around here with guns. We want you to feel safe.
Totally.
And feel safe while you're here. Take the advantage of these things. You know, I said, because you know who else I do. A lot more dangerous than it is here. They always nod their head. And when you can kind of post that little connection, you can start breaking down some of the barriers.
Earlier, you were talking about reading body language, and you like want to get some distance between you and so you can kind of see people's body language and see what kind of mood they're in, and if they're cold or hungry or things like that. Have you ever? So if you see somebody and your body you read their body language and you just know that they need something, but they also lack you know it's going to take a little while to like build that trust between you and that person. Do you have a sort of a long game that you play with them in those situations, or what's your method just to kind of ease a little bit each day, just make sure that they know that you're there and you're going to ask them how they're doing and things like that?
Wednesday went to school, had a kid that came in, and he was a little small, frail kid, and I'm talking to one of the administrators, said, oh man, this kid's about to have a major meltdown over here. And she's like, who? I said, that one right there. And of course the kid was standing there kind of paralyzed with fear. Couldn't move. And then she went over and talked to him. And he was sitting down. He sat down, but he was still crying. And so she was like, well, I'm going to go get a social worker or go get the other administrator. And just left him in there. Now, of course, I wouldn't have left him in there.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking, and I'm going to head over. But then one of my coworkers went right over there to the kid and sat down with him, talked to him, and got him to come up and kind of step away, you know, so he can save face.
Yeah.
You know, so kids are not looking and watching them cry and everything else. I'm like, man, this freshman year, first day of school, this has got to be the worst.
Yeah.
And so the next day, Friday, I seen him, and he came in the cafeteria. So I went and talked to one of our new administrators, and I said, hey, look, I went ahead and told the kid, because I went and told the kid, come sit over here, because I could tell he was still very nervous. And I went and sat him down, talked to him for a second. I talked to the surrounding paraeducators and just said, hey, he's going to be sitting right here on these days to make sure he's welcome to come sit over here in this group so he can eat. It's somewhat quieter over here. I went and told the administrator. And she's like, oh, so that's the one they were talking about the other day. I'm glad you pointed him out to me. And I said, yeah, he's over there sitting down. And I just said, hey, look, is there a way you can find out and see if he has an IEP or if he is on the spectrum? Or is there something else we can be doing for him? I said, because he looked like he's just really overwhelmed. There's all this going on in here. That's a lot, you know, because you don't know what his background and makeup is. Those are things that, they ain't safety and security, but to me, that's just, I'm a father, I'm an uncle, you know, I'm also an adult in the building. Yeah. And sometimes you just got to reach out to them that way. And there's been other cases too with some kids that come across and they want to play the air like they're hard and things like that. So your approach to them might be a little differently than it would be with this guy. Or if there's a young lady, depending on who she is, and I'm being serious, depending on what she's wearing, and whether I will approach or do I want a female to come with me.
Right.
Because different things can be said and stuff of that nature. And it's really just nature of the job.
Yeah.
But you have to protect yourself as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but everybody, if you can, that's what you're there for. If you're not there to do that and give 100%, you should be doing something else.
You know how a lot of teachers talk to kids about, you need to make better choices. You know what I mean? Anything. But it's like, okay, that kid you're talking about, for example, you can start recording, Josh, if you want. Rob was just talking about a kid who he kind of mentors, and who from our school who, has made some poor choices. And, and you were saying that like, you will sit down like weekly and just kind of talk to him, visit him, talk to him about trying to make better choices.
Yeah.
And it's like, my thought is I assume he listens, I'm guessing, to you, right?
He what?
He listens. He's listening to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, for the most part. Well, the thing is, teenagers, man, you can talk to them, man, and, in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
But sooner or later, something will stick.
Right.
You got to trust in that, just as long as you are consistent with your message.
Okay.
And you're coming across
that is
and it's
interesting.
sincere, and they have to know it, because kids will inquire about you the way inmates do.
Yeah.
And if they say, oh, yeah, when I worked with Mr. Jordan, we did this. Oh, yeah, we do the same thing. Well, every time I work with Mr. Jordan, he takes me to McDonald's. Yeah, he takes me too.
Yeah.
And I remember having the lady at the probation office ask me, why you take these kids out to eat? I said, because you ever been hungry?
Yeah.
I said, I have.
Right.
I said, and some of these kids, if I got them after school, man, from 4 to 6 or something like that, and then I'm taking them home, they might not have anything to eat there. I don't know. But I do know that I fed him dinner before he left. So I know that he got that meal in, and I know he's coming to school tomorrow, and he have some breakfast and he have some lunch. So sometimes they don't get that, but no, that's the thing that all those kids will say. If I have them, I'm gonna feed you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of feeding, so you're cooking. You cook on Sundays. Okay. So, and that's just been a tradition?
Yeah. I always tell my kids, man, I teach y'all how to cook so y'all never be a burden on anybody.
Right.
If you learn how to cook, man, and I can't tell you how that brings people together. A good home cooked meal. And so, Don was telling me he wanted me to fry some chicken today.
Okay.
And also put some chicken on the grill and some steak.
You fried chicken and chicken on the grill?
Oh, yeah.
And steak?
Yeah, well, when you're Southern,
So
man,
awesome.
it's got to be more than one meat on the table.
Yeah, okay.
And then you got leftover.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. And I think through that period of time when my mom and dad divorced and my brother and I literally wasn't shit to eat in the fridge, man.
Yeah.
Nothing. So we used to walk around the store, man, just saying, man, when Dad's in the check, man, I'm gonna get some bologna. Yeah, if you get that, I get the bread, and we make sandwiches. That kind of thing.
Damn.
Now, if you go back and look now, I'll be 53, and my brother's 54, and his fridge and home setup is just like mine. I got 2 deep freezers, and I got 2 refrigerators, and a pantry that stay full of food. And he does the same thing. And the equation on that is we've been hungry.
Yep.
And I don't want my kid to ever know a hungry day. So I don't know how to go buy just one box of, say, cornflakes. Dom says he wants Fruity Pebbles, he gets Fruity Pebbles.
Right.
If Olivia says she wants peanut butter Captain Crunch, she gets peanut butter Captain Crunch. And if we just buy them and we have them. Now, I know somebody might say, man, y'all just overdoing it. Yeah, you could probably say I go to a therapist, and the therapist will probably tell you, yeah, you got a problem, and this is where it came from.
Yeah, right.
You need to let it go.
Right.
No, because that's my security blanket.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. That makes a lot of sense.
So does your whole family get together on Sundays when you cook?
Well, Brandon's in Seattle.
Okay.
But yeah, the rest of them, yeah.
Yeah.
All of them there.
Oh, they are.
Uh-huh.
And their families, so you'll have your grandson.
Yeah, he's there. And then, like today, I think Dom.
His youngest son.
What I gotta be careful now. Do they call them girlfriends?
I don't know what they call them. They're talking to him. I know they're talking to him.
Yeah, they're talking to him. So she'll be coming over later.
Okay. Cool. All right. Oh, I heard about that. I know I can't say names, but I already got word on the street about who he's talking to.
Yeah, and then the thing about it is he's like, well, Dad, we want to kind of keep it on the down low.
Okay.
I said, maybe I'm old-fashioned, son, but women like to feel special.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't make her feel special, boy, she'll find somebody else that will.
That's a good point.
Because at some point, she's going to say, what's wrong with me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
you know?
Is he a senior? Did you say he's still in high school?
No, he's a junior. Yeah.
Junior in high school. So you work at, does he go to North?
Yeah.
Now, how's he going to keep that a secret if you're at North, your sister's a teacher at North,
right?
Yeah, and he's a high school student? It seems like he wouldn't be able to get away with anything.
He said, family's okay, but just the friends and everybody in general, because he's not much for, if you want to say PDA and all that. And I said, that's okay, because I'm not either.
Yeah.
I said, I'm old-fashioned, man. What you do behind closed doors and all that stuff. I'm not walking around holding hands and playing kissy face and all that stuff all day. I said, I don't expect you to do that. But, come on, man.
Yeah.
But, this first time he had a lady friend.
Okay.
So, and depending on how this podcast come out, I hope you don't see this.
I know. You got.
We can cut that part if you want.
Oh no, you leave that in there.
We're constantly banking on young people, not giving a shit about this podcast. Like there's certain populations where we're like, we hope they don't listen to this because of whatever we're talking about.
Yeah, but it just depends because you might have somebody go there and say they're interested, and then they say. Well, they were talking to Mr. Jordan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Right.
What'd he say?
Right.
That's right.
And then
Dom finds out. Then Dom finds out that I know that he was on a date at Upland. Was it Upland?
I'm going to tell you the funny story about Upland. He said he's going to take it to Upland. Y'all been to Upland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife and I love Upland.
Yeah.
But we don't want to spend that kind of money
That's
in there
some
every
cash,
week.
man. It's expensive.
Yeah. So he said, well, she wants to go to Upland. I'm thinking maybe I can eat something here at home first.
Oh, are you serious?
And I said, and what you going to do, man? Go order fries? If she going there, man, order and eat.
Right.
Damn.
Yeah. So his plan was to eat something in advance, go there.
So he could save a little money.
Watch her eat.
I'm glad you steered him away from that stretch.
Oh, my God. But they did end up going to a Korean barbecue place.
All right. Okay.
Did
you have a good time?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a good kid. Mm-hmm. At least from what I can tell.
I do remember going on like dates when I was in high school or something and thinking to myself, I hope to God she doesn't want like popcorn at this movie because I barely have the money to pay for the ticket.
Yeah.
Or even like, I hope I don't run out of gas in front of her parents' house.
Yeah.
How is your mom doing, Josh?
She's doing better.
Good, just checking.
Yeah.
All right. I tell you what, man, I share with kids sometimes when they ask us about being in high school, and I told them, I said, I can remember back in 1985 when they had cigarette machines in the school.
Oh, my God. It's
and
amazing.
then the kids said, no way. I said, yeah, man. If you had 75 cents, you can get a pack. Unless your mom sent you to school with a pack of Marlboros, man. You'd be 14 years old, not there smoking next to the principal.
Oh, man.
And they're like, no, man, you're kidding. I said, no, I'm serious. I said, and I remember a friend of mine, Timmy Hancock, and those cats, man, they go fishing or they go hunting or whatever. They come to school, man, and with a shotgun on the back of their truck. On the back, on the rack.
Yeah.
Nobody thought anything of it.
It's so true. I mean, that was probably happening, well, because we're all the same age. So I'm surely in Bedford when you were down there, or even at North, this was happening, right? There were gun racks and stuff. Do you remember this stuff?
I don't.
On the trucks?
I do remember the gun racks, but I don't remember seeing like guns,
Actual rifles.
But at North, when I was there was a smoking circle.
There
I
was.
remember that. Yeah, there was a designated area. There wasn't cigarette machines,
right?
But yeah, you could smoke, no problem smoking there.
Yeah, well, we Kentuckians, we had them. In fact, in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, man, they still have drive-through liquor stores.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you ain't got to get out to buy your bourbon, man. You just pull up, and they give you a bottle of bourbon, and they ask you if you want a cup of ice.
Oh,
now,
my God,
that
are you
doesn't
serious?
Promote drinking and driving.
They
I don't
ask
know
you if you want a cup of ice?
Yeah, I'm serious. Yeah.
I can't.
How many cup of ice you want, man?
What do they
get? Two. Let me get 2 players. I can't tell you how many funerals I've been to because when we lose kids every year, I go.
You do? Yeah.
We had one individual, he actually graduated, he went to South. Mm-hmm. And when he passed away, I went to his funeral. And they had a balloon release because he had died 5 years ago. Don't you know those kids invited me and made sure I was there?
That's cool, man.
Because they wanted me to be there.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah, man. So your connections with them become real. Mm-hmm. And it transcends just being a mentor to them. In school, you become a mentor in life.
Yeah.
Right. Because you have some of them now that they're becoming parents. They got kids. Some are already divorced. Some are widowed.
Right.
I remember the late, that broke my heart. How he got shot and died. Because I still remember him, the goofy,
I know, right?
Goofy little kid coming in high school, the freshman.
Yeah.
I remember him finishing and graduating. And, he's gone like so many others before him. And I say, damn, man, I ain't supposed to outlive y'all like this.
Yeah.
And he was shot here in town, 6 a.m. They shot him 15 times. Mm. They made sure he was dead. Mm-hmm. They still, don't have any lead, or they haven't found the killer. So you're praying for justice for him. And I'm in school the other day, and little girl was sitting at the table with her friends, and I'm talking to her, and just doing Mr. Jordan thing. Then she said, "Yeah, you just like my mom said you were." "Who's your mama?" And she go, "I'm sister." And I had to do a double take. And she go, "Yeah, you're just like my mom said." I said, "Oh my goodness, man."
Wow.
And I said, "Do you remember when I used to come by and work with?" I said, "Yeah, we used to look forward to you coming because you always brought donuts."
Is that right?
Yeah, I always brought donuts for the kids. I'm working with a brother. But all the other kids were there. Like I said, if I come, I'm feed you. I'm going to have fun with them too. And that's why you do it. Because now she's in high school. She knows who I am. And she depends on me.
I'll tell you that, like, I had a teacher in high school that really made the difference for me. And I think of her like once a week, probably. I wouldn't have gotten my act together in high school. I wouldn't have gone to college. I wouldn't have done so many things. And the reason I'm mentioning that is that these people that remember you, I'm sure there's so many more that remember you, and they just never forget the people that really made a difference to them.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other Bloomington stuff, just like stories from Bloomington, life in Bloomington, any other Bloomington stuff that you got in your mind or you want to talk about, or any other stuff you want to talk about?
No, I guess if you're showing us in the Bloomington stories, my guy Matt from Vintage Phoenix Comics, and been going to him and buying comics for years.
What kind of comics?
It just depends, really. Sometimes I ask Matt what he recommends.
Okay,
cool.
Cause
I used to go every week. Then I got sporadic, and then I went to where I'm not buying comics anymore. Stories are all very redundant. Mm-hmm. The writing is very poor now, and they're changing all the characters up, and I can't relate to them anymore. Mm-hmm. And then I come back and say, well, you know what, Matt, what do you recommend? So I grab something. But they always ask me about my children, and that stands out for him. Always.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Yep.
That's cool. So shout out to Vintage Phoenix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
And now, a Mellencamp moment.
Should we ask him the question?
Yeah, definitely.
You want to ask it?
Yeah. It's more of a statement.
Oh yeah.
John Mellencamp.
Who?
Well, I think we did it.
Yeah.
This is great. So fun.
Yeah, this was really great. It was really nice meeting you, and thanks again for sharing with us on this podcast. And really appreciate it.
So you pretty much just got to go straight home and start getting the grill going?
I'm going to go home and get started. What time is it now? 4?
Yeah.
4. Yep.
What time's dinner?
When I'm done.
Yeah.
When I'm done.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. I'm the cook and I'm the showstopper. They can't do nothing.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. You know what's funny is when I cook and grill, I don't really eat a lot.
Oh yeah.
After I fix it all, I'm good. And I just pray it's something for me in the morning. Because my daughters and son, they'll make short work out of all that.
Right.
Yeah. He'll eat all this shit like he cooked it. They ain't do a damn thing but eat it up. But I wouldn't have many other way.
Yeah.
Right. We'll have a great dinner.
I will, man.
Give your family my love.
Y'all let me know. I do this again with y'all anytime.
Yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure you've got about 10 times more stories left in there.
I have 10 times more next time we do it again.
Yep.
I mean, I'm going back to school tomorrow.
Yeah.
Always got a story with me.
All right, Rob.
Awesome.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, you guys enjoy your Sunday.
See you, Josh.
I'll talk to you later.
What's Andy?
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Why do you do this podcast? Why do you, this specific podcast? Why do you want to invest time doing a Bloomington Stories podcast?
I find it really interesting. I found it really interesting talking to people, getting to know their story. I love listening to other people's stories.
Yeah, me too.
And I love learning new things. So learning how to put it together, learning how to publish it, learning how to improve on the sound. And I love the process.
Yeah.
I like to deep dive into it. And it's the town I live in. So it's kind of cool to talk about the town I live in. And I want to someday sit in a chair when I'm old and listen to them.
Dude, I'm the same way. Yeah, that's a great way of saying it. Like I think about because for me, I'm the same way. I freaking love their stories. I love people's stories. And I think about people who aren't with us anymore who I just am like, oh my God, I wish we'd had Bloomington Stories back then just so that I could go hear their voice and remember, their mannerisms and things they talked about.
Yeah.
And I just like the idea of, it is like the town we live in. We chose to be in. And I love the idea of just having this, just having an archive of different, of different voices and stories. And one of the things I find, it's just like everything else. Like Mary Sloan was over at my house yesterday. She came by to, because I'm sick. And so she came by and brought some, actually, she brought some stuff called Dr. D's, which is this concoction that this guy, Dylan, who I'm sure you remember from Soma, he was like one of the first Soma baristas, super hip guy, photographer. And he would make this stuff called Dr. D's. And she came over, she brought me this Dr. D's, and we were sitting out, just shooting the shit out by the garden. And she was talking about Toby, her partner who passed away, and how she and a couple other folks are kind of have this project where they're trying to bring together all of his body of work and do something like make a record or something like that. And but she was saying as she listens to that stuff that it's like it's now she said it's so cool. She was basically talking about how songwriting has this weird relationship with time where sometimes a song you write is telling your future self something that your present self doesn't know.
Right.
Or sometimes, or vice versa. And there's this way in which, and then if you go listen to your songs, you're like, holy shit, like I was telling myself some shit that I did not even know I was telling myself, but now I listen to it and I was definitely telling myself,
Yeah. Yeah.
She said when she hears Tobe's songs, like she'll hear Tobe, telling her stuff and so forth. But that's another thing is like, interviewing somebody like Simeon, I've just known him for so long that it's not that it's mundane. It's just that I've heard those stories, and to me, it's not that. It's just a guy. It's just my friend. It's my friend telling stories. But I know when I listen to it when I'm old, it'll be like, whoa, like he didn't even think he was interesting. He was telling Mary apparently that he was like, I don't even know. Like he was saying to Mary, you have all these interesting stories. Like I don't really have anything interesting to talk about, which is hilarious,
Right.
But it's just, we don't know, we don't understand.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Another thing too, when I listen to it is I have this brain to where I'm always like, I feel like I'm always like thinking of stuff that I need to do. And Virginia, my wife, tells me that even things that I enjoy doing, I turn into work. But when when I'm listening to this podcast and when I listen to, when I'm editing and recording it, it's also a document of a really enjoyable experience that I'm having. Like I'm like these conversations that we're in, and they're not fake, they're
right.
real, and it's a document of a really good time that I'm having.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I love that. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
I wish we had the resources and time to do this, every week. Cause it's just like, we have this running list or Josh and I have this notes on our phone that we shared note where it's just like, and this list just is so long. I mean, I'm just looking at it. It's got so many people. I mean, it's got like, I think we both really want this podcast to be as sort of like everybody's, just because we're making it, we want it to be everybody's. And so, if folks have good ideas of podcasts, or if they have, honestly, like suggestions about what they like and don't like, or anything, like I think we're super open to, listening and just hearing cool ideas, because I know it'll just make it better.
And if you live in Bloomington, then you have a story. And if you have a story, we want to hear it. So please reach out to us.
Yeah. And, if you happen to be on your phone and you're just sort of like, damn, that was fun to listen to, and you kind of want to like just give us a boost of endorphins, you could rate and review.
Yep.
If you want, you could get on there and troll us, or you could insult us.
Yep.
But it needs to be a good insult.
Yep.
We probably like it better. Josh and I both have a lot of self hatred, so we might even like it better if you insult us.
Yeah, because I'd feel more comfortable that way.
All right.
I don't know how to handle compliments, so insults are preferred.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Y'all. I never said y'all. Even though I'm from Kansas, I never even considered the possibility of saying y'all until I was in Indiana for a couple decades, and now it's just part of my deal.
You're not in Kansas anymore, bitch.
Hey everybody, it's Chris again. I'm just here with a couple of quick things. One, I wanted to swing back around to Rob talking about how he works with teenagers also in the afternoons and evenings. I think we failed to mention that he also has a social work agency with his wife, so he is definitely burning the candle at both ends. And of course, as usual, I want to thank our good friend Uncle Ty Price up in Indianapolis for his trusted feedback. Have a good one.
Bloomington Stories is a podcast produced by Chris Coopersmith and Josh Bennett, with new episodes released on the first of each month. Please consider subscribing, rating, reviewing, and following. Please see our show notes for more information on our guests.